The chamber of the Galactic Council was vast, cold, and full of light. It was built inside a black asteroid that orbited a dying star, far from any world. 1,000 alien races had gathered there, their voices mixing in strange sounds that echoed like thunder. The hall was filled with anger. Every eye was focused on one place, on the small group of humans standing in the center of the floor. 3 humans had come to speak for Earth. They looked small compared to the tall, shining beings around them, but they stood straight. Ambassador Lucas Ward stood in front. He wore a simple gray suit, not armor, not robes of power, just human cloth. His dark eyes moved slowly across the crowd, calm but sharp. Beside him were Commander Elena Ross, a soldier with a strong jaw and quiet strength, and Dr. Aaron Patel, a scientist with tired eyes but a mind that never stopped working. The council speaker, a tall being of silver skin and glowing eyes, hit his staff against the ground. The sound rang through the hall like a hammer on metal. "The matter of Earth," he said, "has reached its end. The humans have been found dangerous. Their technology grows beyond control. Their weapons disturb the balance. They must be contained." Murmurs spread across the room. Some aliens hissed in agreement. Others shifted uneasily. The humans did not move. Ambassador Ward waited until the noise faded. Then he said softly, "You are making a mistake." The speaker's voice grew cold. "A mistake? You create thinking machines that learn faster than the laws of physics allow. You build weapons that ignore our treaties. You refuse to share your quantum defenses. You hide behind your planet like predators waiting for the dark. Tell me, human, what mistake have we made?" Ward stepped forward, his voice calm but steady. "We did what we always do. We survived. You call us dangerous because we think differently. You fear us because you cannot predict us." A deep growl rose from the seats of the council. A large-scaled creature slammed its claw on the table.
"You lie!"
"Your species expands too fast. You threaten all of us." Dr. Patel raised his head. "We never attacked anyone. We built what we needed to protect ourselves." The speaker looked at him with glowing eyes. "Protection does not require armies in orbit. It does not require fleets hidden in your moon's shadow." Ross's lips curved into a faint smile. "Then perhaps you should not have sent spies to find them." A quiet gasp spread across the chamber. The humans had just confirmed what no one had dared to say aloud, that the council had already sent ships to Earth's system to watch and maybe to strike. The speaker's face tightened. "Enough! The vote is final!" One by one, the symbols of the great empires glowed across the chamber. Red for war, blue for peace. One after another, the lights turned red. The speaker raised his staff. "By the power of the council, Earth is to be quarantined. Any resistance will be met with force." For a long moment, the humans did not speak. The entire hall waited. Then Lucas Ward slowly reached into his coat and pulled out a small silver device. He placed it on the floor. The aliens flinched, expecting a weapon, but the device only glowed once, then faded. Ward looked at the speaker. "You've already made your choice. Now we will make ours." He turned to Elena Ross. She nodded, pressing her wrist console. A signal was sent across light years, coded and silent. The message reached Earth in seconds. Protocol Dawnfire. No one in the council knew what that meant, but every human on Earth did. Back home, under the blue sky of the planet they called their cradle, alarms began to sound deep underground. Satellites shifted their orbits. Systems that had slept for years suddenly came alive. Around the moon, hidden platforms unfolded like steel flowers. The quiet night of Earth changed. In the council chamber, the speaker leaned forward. "What have you done?" Ward only said, "Prepared." Security guards moved closer. Weapons were raised, glowing and sharp. Commander Ross stepped between the guards and her people. Her hand was empty, but her stance told them everything. They would have to kill her to touch the others. The speaker glared. "You will hand over your technologies at once, or your world will burn." Ward met his stare without fear. "Then you'll find out what happens when you try to burn a world that learned to live through fire." The speaker hit his staff again. "Guards, escort them out." The humans were led away under heavy watch. As they walked through the long, shining corridors of the council's halls, Ross whispered, They think they've already won. Ward nodded. Let them think that. They'll see soon enough. Dr. Patel walked in silence, his mind already calculating how long before the alien fleet reached Earth. 72 hours, he said quietly. Maybe less. Ward looked out through a window at the stars. Then Earth will have to be ready in 71. The view beyond the window was endless. So many lights, so many worlds. And all of them thought of humanity as a small, fragile race from a small, fragile planet. None of them understood what Earth had done in the dark years when no one came to help. None of them knew what kind of strength had been born from centuries of struggle, hunger, and war. The transport ship that carried the humans away left the asteroid behind. Inside, Ross removed a small transmitter from her jacket. They'll track this, she said. Ward smiled faintly. That's the idea. As the ship drifted toward a neutral zone, the Council's fleets began to move. Across 100 systems, alien warships turned their bows toward a blue planet on the edge of a yellow star. Messages spread fast. Earth was to be contained. Earth was to be punished, but as the fleets jumped through space, strange reports started to come in. Ships vanished from sensors. Navigation signals were scrambled. A few commanders claimed that the humans were already jamming their communications, something impossible at that distance. On Earth, Commander Ross's voice echoed through hidden bunkers. They're coming! All units, follow Dawnfire protocol. In orbit, the defense platforms aligned with quiet precision. Rail cannons the size of cities charged with blue energy. Satellites switched from communication to combat mode. The global net went dark to hide human activity. Dr. Patel stood in a control room deep beneath the Himalayas, looking at screens full of numbers and maps. They'll expect fear, he said. Let's give them confusion instead. Ross, now in her combat uniform, replied, They'll see Earth as a target. Let's make them see a trap. Above them, the first alien ships entered the solar system. Their sensors scanned the planets. They saw no sign of resistance. They thought Earth's defense was weak. Their commanders laughed. One of them said, These humans think their rocks can stop us? Then the stars changed. Lines of light appeared across the sky. Invisible fields shimmered as Earth's orbital stations came alive. Hidden satellites unfolded mirrors that reflected energy beams back toward the attackers. The alien ship's shields broke apart like glass. In that first hour, the Council fleet lost more ships than in any war in 100 years. On the Council world, the speaker watched the reports come in, his eyes wide. Impossible, he whispered. How are they doing this? A younger alien near him said in fear, Sir, if they can see our tactics, if they can break our codes, maybe they studied us. The speaker's gaze turned to the hologram of Earth, glowing red. They are not supposed to understand us. They are primitive. But deep down, he already knew the truth. Humanity was not primitive. Humanity was patient. They had watched, learned, and prepared. As the chamber shook with angry voices, one old council member whispered to another. They should never have been pushed. They fight like they remember extinction. The speaker turned toward the great star map again. Earth still glowed red, marked for destruction. Yet now, under that red light, smaller blue lights appeared, symbols of human ships rising from the surface. He stared at the map for a long time before saying quietly, If they are fighting back, then maybe we were the fools. Back on Earth, Lucas Ward watched from the control deck of a human cruiser as the alien fleet advanced. His voice was calm as he said, They think they're attacking us. They don't understand. They're entering a lesson. Elena Ross stood beside him. Then let's teach it well. Outside the window, the first human missiles launched, leaving bright trails through the black of space. The war for Earth had begun. The sky above Earth was no longer blue. It was filled with streaks of fire and the sound of thunder that came from space. The first alien ships had entered orbit, their shapes dark against the clouds. They moved like giants, slow and confident, believing the fight would be easy. The people of Earth watched from below as the night turned into a storm of light. Many were afraid, but in secret bunkers and deep command centers, calm voices were already giving orders. Commander Elena Ross stood inside the Earth Defense Command under the surface of Iceland. Around her, hundreds of screens showed the movement of alien fleets. She spoke into her headset, her tone steady. "Hold fire! Let them get closer." Her officers exchanged uneasy glances. The alien fleet was massive, stretching across the sky like a swarm of shadows. But Ross knew waiting was part of the plan. In another part of the base, Dr. Arun Patel studied the data pouring in from orbit. The aliens' ships moved in perfect formation, like a single machine. He whispered to himself, "Predictable, just like we hoped." He adjusted his console, activating the neural defense grid. It was a network of human-built AIs that could calculate battle patterns before they happened. The system's light turned green. The AIs began to run simulations, millions of them every second. For the first time in history, humanity could see a war before it unfolded. The first alien strike began. Energy beams fell from orbit, cutting across the atmosphere like swords. A city on the coast lost power. Another saw its skies burn. The aliens were not attacking to conquer. They were showing strength. To them, this was punishment. But to the humans, it was only the start. Ross gave the command. Phase 1. Now. Far above Earth, a group of human satellites woke from their long sleep. They had been built in secret, hidden behind fake transmissions and civilian programs. Their surfaces shifted, revealing long black barrels. The satellites opened fire, not with lasers, but with metal. Slugs of tungsten, fired at incredible speed, struck the alien ships from below. One of the massive cruisers exploded silently, breaking into 1,000 pieces. The others turned quickly, surprised. Ross smiled faintly. They're used to energy weapons. They never thought we'd throw rocks. In space, human stealth drones appeared, small and almost invisible. They had no pilots, only cold logic and simple missions. Destroy, mislead, confuse. They moved between the enemy ships like ghosts, disrupting sensors and cutting communication lines. The alien commanders shouted through broken channels. They tried to regroup, but their formations began to fall apart. Dr. Patel watched as data came in faster. Their coordination is dropping. Neural grid predicts 30% confusion in their fleet movements within 10 minutes. Ross nodded. Then we moved to Phase 2. Deep under the ocean, giant submarines rose toward the surface. They were armed with long-range missiles designed for space. When they broke the waves, the sky above lit up with hundreds of trails. The missiles soared into orbit, each carrying a decoy signal to make the enemy chase them. The aliens fired their defenses, destroying empty shells while the real warheads changed course and hit from behind. The explosions lit up the night. In the council chamber far away, the speaker watched the live feeds from the fleet. His silver face twisted in disbelief. They were supposed to be primitive. How do they have orbital weapons? One of his aides stammered. They must have built them in secret, hidden under their atmosphere. The speaker's voice was cold. Find the source. Burn it. On Earth, Ross stood in the command center as reports came in. 6 enemy ships destroyed. 4 damaged. Casualties on our side minimal. She exhaled slowly. Not bad for the first hour. Dr. Patel adjusted his screens. They'll adapt soon. They'll send ground forces next. Ross looked up. Then we'll greet them properly. As the alien fleet began to recover, new ships detached from the main formation and entered the atmosphere. Their engines burned red as they descended. Huge transport ships released smaller crafts that looked like black insects swarming toward the ground. They carried soldiers, thousands of them, ready to land and take control. In the skies over South America, the first dropships opened. Alien troops stepped onto the soil, armed with plasma weapons that could melt steel. They expected chaos. They expected fear. But they found silence. Their scanners showed no movement. They spread out, careful, watching the strange forests and cities ahead. Then the ground moved. From under the soil, heavy platforms rose, their metal sides covered in camouflage plates. Human soldiers appeared, wearing armored suits painted with shifting colors. They were the Spectre units, Earth's hidden special forces. No one outside the planet even knew they existed. They attacked with precision, silent and quick. The aliens fired back. But the humans moved too fast, their armor blending into the smoke and dust. A captured alien commander screamed through the comms. "They are not normal soldiers! They appear and vanish. What are these things?" But there was no answer. The humans had cut their lines. Back in the command base, Dr. Patel watched the numbers change again. Ground invasion delayed. Enemy morale dropping. Ross nodded. "Let's make sure they stay confused." She turned to her team. "Send false distress signals to their fleet. Make them think we're losing." Above Earth, alien ships began to receive panicked messages in their own language. Human defenses failing. Send reinforcements. They adjusted their orbits, spreading their forces too thin. They didn't know the messages were fake. They didn't know the humans had already cracked their codes weeks before. The battle raged through the night and into the next day. Cities were shaken, skies burned, but the human defense held. Every attack the aliens made met a counter they couldn't predict. The neural defense grid adjusted every hour, learning faster than any enemy computer could react. For the first time, the Council's armies were being outmaneuvered by a world they had thought too young, too wild, too small. In the Council chamber, chaos grew. Reports flooded in, ships lost, troops missing, communication cut off. The speaker slammed his staff on the floor. "This cannot be! We sent the finest fleets in the galaxy." An older member of the Council spoke quietly. "Maybe that is the problem. They studied the finest fleets in the galaxy." The speaker turned sharply. "What do you mean?" The old alien looked tired. "We have fought wars the same way for thousands of years. We follow the same rules, the same formations, the same patterns. But the humans, they change. Every time we learn them, they become something else." The speaker stared at the red hologram of Earth. "Then we will burn their planet to ash." On Earth, Ross watched as the alien ships pulled back into orbit. They were regrouping. She could feel the tension in the air. "They're planning something bigger," she said quietly. Dr. Patel nodded. "Yes, they're afraid, and fear makes them dangerous." He paused, then looked at her. "We can hold them off, but not forever. We need to end this before they destroy everything." Ross folded her arms. "Then we end it our way." Across the planet, human forces retreated to preset positions. Every move was calculated to make it look like Earth was losing. The aliens believed it. They started preparing for their final strike, a massive bombardment meant to break the human defense once and for all. In the final hours of the day, the alien fleet formed into attack lines. From the Council's command ships, a signal went out. Total assault. The aliens aimed their weapons toward the planet, ready to unleash destruction. In the darkness of space, hidden between Earth and the Moon, human ships waited. They had been invisible since the start of the battle, shielded by energy distortions and false readings. When the alien fleet fired, the human ships moved at once. Hundreds of missiles left their bays, guided by the neural grid. Each one found a target. Explosions filled the void. The alien commanders screamed for order, but it was too late. Their front lines broke. Their systems went blind. In a single hour, half their fleet was gone. On the ground, people looked up at the night sky. The stars burned brighter, and for a moment, they could see flashes of light far above, the proof that Earth was still fighting, still alive. Commander Ross stood in silence, watching the same lights from a mountain bunker. "They came to teach us fear," she said softly. "Instead, they learned it." Dr. Patel joined her, his face pale from exhaustion. "They'll call for help," he said. "They'll bring more ships." Ross looked up at the sky again. "Then we'll be ready for them too." In the distance, beyond the edge of the solar system, the remaining alien fleet sent a desperate message to the Council. The voice of a commander shook with fear. "They fight like they knew us before we came. They know our tactics. They see every move. We cannot win." And somewhere in the Council's high chamber, the speaker stared at the message in silence. His eyes were full of dread when he whispered, "Who has been helping them?" The Council world was filled with noise. The great chamber that once held calm debates now echoed with fear and anger. The speaker sat on his high seat, listening to the flood of reports from the fleets that had gone to Earth. Most of the ships were gone. Many had been destroyed before they even reached orbit. Others had vanished without warning. The council's generals stood below him, their faces pale and tense. They had never seen a war like this. The speaker slammed his staff on the floor. How is this possible? How can one small planet do this much damage? No one answered. Finally, a nervous voice spoke from the back. It was an old officer, thin and gray, who had seen too many wars. They were ready for us, Speaker. They knew our tactics before we used them. It was as if they could read our minds. The speaker leaned forward. You think they have spies? The officer hesitated. Maybe. Or maybe they have friends here. The room went quiet. The idea was dangerous, but everyone had been thinking it. Somewhere inside the council, someone might have been helping the humans. Someone had warned them. Someone had given them knowledge that no young race should have. The speaker's voice grew sharp. Find them. Far from the council world, on a small moon hidden in the dark, a secret meeting was taking place. A lone alien figure sat inside a dim room, staring at a hologram of a human man. The man's voice was calm and steady. It was Ambassador Lucas Ward. You knew this would happen, Ward said quietly. The alien nodded. Yes, the council fears what it cannot control. I tried to warn them, but they never listen. Ward's eyes were cold. You gave us their codes. You told us how their ships move. You risked everything. The alien looked tired. I did it because I have seen what happens when the council destroys a world. They call it peace, but it is only silence. You humans, you fight for something real. The hologram flickered. They will find you, Ward said. The alien gave a small smile. Then it was worth it. The transmission ended. The alien turned off the lights and waited in the dark. Moments later, heavy footsteps echoed outside. The door opened, and bright light filled the room. Back on Earth, Commander Elena Ross stood inside a steel command tent near the ruins of a mountain city. Smoke filled the air outside, and the sky was still glowing from the battle. Around her, soldiers checked their weapons and drones hovered in silence. She was tired but focused. Report, she said. A young officer replied, We've cleared the last of the ground troops. The aliens are pulling back to orbit, but we're still tracking movement on the dark side of the moon. Ross nodded. They're not done yet. Dr. Arun Patel joined her, carrying a small device with glowing lines across its surface. The neural grid has intercepted something, he said. Encrypted council signals. They're looking for traitors. Ross frowned. So it's true. Someone on the inside helped us. Patel nodded slowly. Yes, and now they're hunting them. Ross looked toward the horizon where faint lights flickered among the clouds. Then we'd better make sure their sacrifice isn't wasted. A few hours later, Ward's ship arrived from orbit. He stepped out, still wearing the same calm expression he had in the council chamber. Ross met him at the landing pad. You look like you haven't slept in days, she said. Ward gave a tired smile. You could say the same. They walked together through the base, passing soldiers who saluted quietly. The council is falling apart, Ward said. Half of them want to surrender. The other half want revenge, Ross asked. And the fleet? Still regrouping, he replied. But they'll come again. Harder this time. Patel joined them, his face pale under the flickering lights. We can hold another wave, but not a full assault. We need something bigger, something that changes the game. Ross looked at him. What are you thinking? Patel hesitated. The grid was built to defend. But if we change the code, it could also attack. Ward raised an eyebrow. You mean turn their own systems against them? Patel nodded. Yes, but it's risky. We'd have to tap into the council's main network. One mistake and we lose everything, Ross crossed her arms. We're already risking everything. In orbit, the remains of the alien fleet circled Earth, waiting for new orders. Their commanders sent constant transmissions back to the council. One of the messages reached the speaker, who stood alone in his chamber, staring at the stars. They fight like no other species, the commander's voice said through the communicator. They adapt faster than we can react. Their soldiers use tactics we cannot understand. It's as if they know fear, but it makes them stronger. The speaker's eyes narrowed. Then we will destroy their strength. He turned to his aides. Prepare Operation Cinderwave. If we cannot take their world, we will burn it. The aides looked horrified. Cinderwave was forbidden. It was a cleansing weapon designed to erase an entire planet's biosphere. One aide whispered, "Speaker, that would break the galactic accords." The speaker's voice was cold. "Then let the accords burn with them." On Earth, the humans detected the movement. Patel's screen flashed with warnings. "They're preparing something huge," he said quickly. "A weapon." The data pattern matches the old council files, something called Cinder Wave. Ross leaned over his shoulder. "What does it do?" Patel hesitated. "It kills planets." The command room went silent. Ward spoke first. "How long until they launch?" "Less than a day," Patel replied. "Maybe less." Ross straightened. "Then we need to strike first." Ward shook his head. "If we attack their main fleet, we risk everything. But if we do nothing, Earth dies." Patel looked between them. "There is another option. We can feed their weapon the wrong coordinates. Make it turn back on them," Ross blinked. "Can we do that?" Patel smiled faintly. "If we can break their encryption in time." They worked through the night. Every console in the bunker glowed. Patel's fingers moved fast, typing line after line of code. Ward coordinated with Orbit, sending false signals to confuse the alien sensors. Ross managed the soldiers, keeping the base secure while the sky shook with thunder from above. The tension was heavy, but no one stopped. Humanity had come too far to fall now. In the council chamber, the speaker watched the final stages of Operation Cinderwave. A massive warship, larger than any before, powered up its core. Blue light poured from its engines. "Target locked," said the ship's commander. "Earth in range." The speaker smiled coldly. "Fire." At that same moment, deep underground on Earth, Patel pressed the final key. "Now," he said. The neural grid sent a pulse through the communication lines, invisible and fast. It slipped through the alien network, changing numbers, rewriting paths. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the alien commander's face appeared on the council screen, his voice full of panic. "Something is wrong! The weapon is turning—" The signal cut off. Outside the council world, the light of the weapon curved. The energy beam twisted in space, bending back toward the fleet that had launched it. There was no time to stop it. The beam struck with the force of a star. The fleet vanished in a wave of fire. On Earth, the monitors flashed white, then dark. The humans stared in silence as the data came in. Patel whispered, "It worked." Ross let out a slow breath. "It's over." Ward looked at the screen, seeing the wreckage of the alien ships drifting in silence. "No," he said softly. "It's not over. Now the Council will know, and they won't forgive this." In the far reaches of space, one damaged alien ship escaped the blast. It carried a single message back to the Council. "The humans didn't attack us. They turned our weapon against ourselves." The speaker read the report with shaking hands. Around him, the Council chamber filled with shouts. Some wanted peace. Others screamed for vengeance. The balance that had held for centuries was broken. On Earth, the people came out of shelters. The fires in the sky were fading. Children looked up and saw stars again. Ross stood outside the bunker, watching the dawn. "We survived again," she said. Patel smiled weakly beside her. "That's what we do." Ward stood a few steps away, speaking into a communicator. "This message is for the Council," he said. "We never wanted this war. You brought it to our world. Remember that." He turned off the device and looked toward the rising sun. The world was scarred but alive. Humanity had faced the most powerful empire in the galaxy and lived to see another day. But in the silence that followed, everyone knew this was not the end. Somewhere out there, the Council was already planning what to do next. And this time, it would not just be war. It would be fear. The solar system held its breath. After the Cinderwave turned on its makers, the Council's fleets were weak and angry. Their commanders wanted to fight, to take back honor. But for the humans, this was the moment they had been ready for. What the galaxy did not know was that Earth had learned to use space itself as a weapon. Commander Eleanor Ross stood on the deck of a hidden cruiser near Saturn. Her face was tired and streaked with dust, but her eyes were clear. Around her, officers moved with calm speed. On the main screen, a map of the outer system showed the alien fleet trying to regroup. Ross touched the screen and pointed. "They will try to circle us. They think we are only on the inner planets. Dr. Arun Patel leaned over a console, watching numbers fall and rise. Their sensors are blind in some bands, he said. We made the right choice burying our arrays in the rings. He tapped a sequence. The feed showed ice and rock in Saturn's rings. Then the hidden platforms slipped free of their covers, silent as predators. Long railguns unfolded like bones. Their barrels pointed out into empty space. Ward stood nearby, quiet as always. He had not wanted this fight, but he knew that if they did not stop the fleet now, the Council would return with worse weapons. We take the Armada at the edge, he said. We do not let them cross Jupiter. The human plan was simple and cruel in its math. All around the outer planets, hidden arrays waited. They used gravity, metal, and speed. The Earth engineers had learned to ride gravity wells. They could steer asteroids and comets with small pushes. They could bend a ship's path with timed explosions and mirror reflections. The system itself could be used like a net. The first trap began at Saturn. As the alien armada drifted in, human platforms fired rail slugs the size of houses. The slugs moved faster than light seemed to allow. When they struck, whole cruisers tore apart. The first explosions looked like new stars being born. The aliens tried to scatter, but the humans had placed their decoys in the right places. Missiles that seemed to fly toward empty space changed direction at the last moment. They smashed into command bridges. A wave of alien ships tried to jump out of the trap. They failed. Hidden nodes in the rings bent their jump coordinates. A portion of the fleet vanished into the wrong point in space. A handful of ships reappeared broken at the edge of Jupiter, crying for help. The Council world watched the feeds and shouted in disbelief. The speaker slammed his staff and banged his desk. How did they do this? He roared. We are the Council! We do not lose fleets like this. On Earth, people watched the sky. Some prayed, some ran. Many simply stood and watched the show of light fall across the stars. Sky feeds showed ships exploding, but also ships that vanished and then returned in pieces. The humans had turned the outer system into a slaughter ground, but the Council would not fall because of railguns. They had more cunning. A Council faction had feared this war and had built a secret answer. Deep inside a fortress ship, scientists had prepared a device. It was small. It looked simple, but it could change space itself. The device would fire a pulse of twisted dark energy. The pulse would warp gravity around a target and make the whole trap fail. When the device fired, a silence fell across the human command nets. For one breath, the grids in the rings rippled. Slugs slowed. Missiles went dark. The aliens cheered for a moment as their fleets found room to move. Ross clenched her jaw. They have a gravity shaper, she said. They will try to melt our net. Patel's fingers moved like a pianist. We built a mirror, he said. A way to send the pulse back where it came from. Building a mirror for dark energy was madness. No one in known space had done such a thing. But the humans had time and hunger. They had built imperfect pieces of math and metal that could reflect a small slice of warped space. They called it the Atlas Protocol. The Atlas platform lay hidden at the edge of the belt, its skin gray like rock. It waited for the moment. When the Council fired their pulse, the Atlas responded with a clean, measured beat. The dark pulse found the mirror and bent back. The effect was immediate and terrible. The gravity shaper turned itself inside out. The ship that held it felt its core become a storm. Systems collapsed. The dark device burned through its own mount and detonated. The explosion rolled like a wave. It hit the nearby fleet with a force that could tear worlds. In the Council chambers, the speaker watched his commanders vanish in a blaze. He fell silent, his features pulled tight like old rope. Around him, some delegates wept. Others screamed for revenge. The balance of power had broken in a single pulse. A single ship escaped the blast. It was small and fast. Inside, a captain sent one message. They did not attack first. They reflected our weapon. Command, you must know. His signal raced back towards the Council world. On Earth, men and women cheered softly. The cost had been heavy. Thousands of human satellites and platforms had been lost. Cities had been burned. There were holes where rivers had been blackened. But the fleet that had once thought to burn them was shattered. Ross watched the field from her command at the outer platform. Her hand went to her neck where a thin necklace hung. It had once belonged to a village woman who had saved her during a raid years ago. She thought of faces, of people who had not come back. War always took something. This one had taken 100 small things from every heart. Ward spoke softly beside her. They will come for us now with words. Patel looked at the remaining feeds. Words will be a hammer and truth will be the nail. Messages flowed through the net. The captain who had escaped sent his signal. The council had to answer. Some voices whispered for peace. Others pushed for total conquest. The ship that had escaped brought the truth to the hall. The humans had not attacked. They had only used defense, and the council's own power had destroyed itself. That truth changed many things. 100 systems saw the images and felt the shock. Some sectors had long feared the council's ways. Now the fear turned into doubt. Small uprisings began at the edges of the empire. Delegates on the council called for inquiry. Others called the humans monsters. Ross knew words alone would not end this. The council might still try to destroy Earth with laws, with trade bans, with secret fleets hidden like knives. The humans had to show they could do more than defend. They had to show restraint. Ward drafted a broadcast. He chose his words like a man choosing stones for a path. When he spoke, he did not shout. He did not brag. He said, "We did not want your war. You forced it. We do not wish to rule you. We only wish to live in peace." The message spread across every net. It played in council halls, in home worlds, in small stations under crusted moons. Some laughed. Some cried. For many, it looked too clean to be true, but a seed had been planted. People who had never thought of Earth as anything more than a rumor began to wonder if they had been taught to fear for the wrong reasons. In one corner of the galaxy, an old ally of the council, a small trading alliance, watched the news and made a quiet move. They had miners who worked near the belt. They had people who knew the rules of gravity. They sent letters to the Earth Command, not with weapons, but with traders and engineers. They said simply, "We will not be part of killing children." Across the council world, the speaker held the staff before him like a sorrowing king. His people looked to him for answers. He felt the weight of blame press into his chest. Outside the great windows, the stars had a different look. They were not just lights. They were witnesses. On Earth, life tried to return to small things. Schools reopened in damaged towns. Fields were plowed where fires had passed. People buried their dead and told the young stories of bravery. The war had changed them, but it had not broken them. In the silence after the storm, the humans rebuilt and watched the sky. They knew the council would think and plan and whisper. They knew other strikes could come. But they also knew something else. The galaxy had watched them survive. The image of a small blue world standing against the most powerful body in space would not fade soon. Commander Ross turned back to her team. "We keep our nets open," she said. "We answer truth with truth. We do not become what they are." Ward looked out to the stars and felt the weight of responsibility settle on him like a cloak. He had no desire to rule, only to protect. He whispered, "Let them see what we are." And the galaxy watched. The war was not over, but the silence after the battle felt like peace. The broken fleets drifted in the dark near Saturn's rings. Wreckage sparkled like dust in sunlight. Earth's ships, scarred and half-broken, moved slowly through the debris, gathering survivors and lost data. The humans had won a victory no one thought possible, but every face in the command centers carried the same tired look. They knew what came next would be harder than fighting. Commander Elena Ross stood in the Earth orbit station. The light from the planet below washed over her face. Blue and white, fragile and alive. It was what she had fought for. On the screen behind her, reports came in from across the system. Some ships had not returned. Some colonies had lost contact. But the defenses still stood. Earth had survived the greatest force the galaxy had ever sent against it. Ward entered the command room with quiet steps. He carried a small black case. Inside it were messages from the Galactic Council. He placed it on the table. "They have called for an emergency summit," he said. "They want us to attend." Ross turned her head slowly. "After what they tried to do?" Ward nodded. "Yes, the council is split. Some want revenge. Others fear the rebellion that has started on their edge worlds. They think peace with us might calm the fires." Patel, sitting near the main console, spoke without looking up. "They fear losing control, not us." "Not yet. Ross looked down at the earth again. "Then we go," she said. "But we do not kneel." Days later, the human envoy ship left orbit. It was small, gray, and carried no weapons. Its engines burned blue against the black. The crew was hand-picked: scientists, diplomats, and guards. They wore no medals, only simple uniforms marked with the flag of Earth. They did not bring gifts. They brought proof that humans could not be ruled by fear. The Galactic Council's chamber waited, far away on the core world of Valerian. It was a city of light and towers so tall they reached the thin upper clouds. The hall itself was built from a single carved stone, black and shining, surrounded by seats that rose in rings like an ancient theater. When the human ship landed outside its walls, the galaxy held its breath again. Ross led the delegation through the gates. Every step echoed. The crowd of alien envoys turned to look at them. Some eyes glowed, some shimmered, some blinked sideways. But every gaze carried the same question: what are they? At the center of the hall, the council speaker stood. His robes were dark silver. His voice filled the air. "Humans of Earth," he said, "you come to answer for destruction. For the fall of our fleets, for the death of thousands of our kind." Ross stopped before the circle. Her voice was calm. "We did not start this war," she said. "Your fleets entered our home without warning. We defended ourselves. The damage you see was caused by your own weapons turned against you." A murmur spread through the hall. Some counselors hissed. Others whispered to aides. One, an old being with eyes like fireflies, leaned forward. "You used reflection technology on dark energy. That is impossible." Patel stepped forward. "It is not impossible," he said. "It is science. You just never looked at it from our side." The speaker's face tightened. "You used it without understanding what it might do." Ross replied, "We understood enough to survive." "That is what we do." A silence fell again. The council was not used to such words. Most species bowed, begged, or traded. These humans stood like they belonged there. That made them dangerous. Then another delegate rose. She was tall, thin, her skin like glass filled with moving lights. She spoke softly. "If what you say is true, then the fault lies in arrogance, not in defense." The humans acted to protect. "The council acted to dominate." The speaker glared at her. "You speak out of turn." She met his eyes. "Then perhaps it is time someone did." The room stirred. The tension that had built for centuries began to show cracks. Some delegates whispered about rebellion, others about reform. The humans had not only survived, they had changed the air in the chamber. The council could not look at them and see savages. They saw equals. Ross looked at the speaker. "We will not strike again unless we are attacked. But if your fleets come to our skies once more, we will end this council before it ends us. You may think us young, but we have learned fast," Ward added quietly. "You called us insane for standing up to you, but maybe sanity is not bending to tyranny." The speaker stood still, his fingers gripping his staff. The light from the hall glowed across his face. Finally, he said, "Then let this war end, for now." It was not a peace treaty. It was a pause, but it was enough. When the humans left the chamber, the halls of Valerian buzzed with noise. Reporters shouted in hundreds of languages. Messages spread across the stars. The council's image had cracked. Systems that had once lived in fear now saw that the unbeatable could bleed. Some even sent secret messages to Earth, offers of friendship, trade, and shared research. On the flight back, Ross sat by the window. The stars drifted past like quiet ghosts. Ward sat across from her, his face unreadable. "They will not forgive this," he said. "They do not have to," she replied. "They only have to remember." Patel smiled faintly. "They will. The galaxy always remembers when something changes its rules." When the ship reached orbit, Earth looked peaceful again. The fires were gone. The air was cleaner. The cities had begun to rebuild. Ross felt the weight of the war leave her shoulders for the first time. In the weeks that followed, things changed quietly. The Atlas arrays were dismantled and stored. The soldiers went home. Children played under blue skies. But in underground labs, scientists worked on new ideas. They studied the same physics that had saved them. They wanted to understand the forces they had bent so dangerously. Ward visited a memorial on the edge of a ruined city. The names of the fallen stretched along the wall. He traced a few with his hand. A young boy approached him, holding a small flag. "My mother says you stopped them," the boy said. "Is it true?" Ward looked down and nodded. "No," he said softly. "We all did," the boy smiled and ran off. Ward watched him go. The sound of laughter filled the empty square. It was the most powerful sound in the universe. Months passed. The council still existed, but its voice was weaker. Some worlds had left. Others had demanded change. The speaker still ruled, but now he ruled in fear. He had seen what humanity could do. He had seen the reflection of their strength and will. In the night skies above Earth, the lights of the defense grid glimmered faintly. They were quiet now, sleeping, but they were still there, a promise and a warning. Ross stood once more on the station overlooking the planet. Patel joined her. "Do you think they'll come again?" he asked. "Maybe," she said. "But next time they'll think twice." He nodded. "And what about us?" She smiled faintly. "We build, we learn, and we remember." Below them, the earth turned slowly. Blue oceans, white clouds, green lands, a small world that had faced the universe and refused to break. The stars seemed closer now, not as threats, but as places waiting to be reached. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy feared Earth not because of its weapons, but because of its will. And for the first time in history, the humans looked to the stars not with fear, but with purpose.